Hi guys, Mike here at Ozone Health and Fitness, and you're joining me here on the main gym floor. So thanks very much for tuning in. And remember, if you hit the follow button at the bottom of this video, it'll give you notifications the next time we're going live. So last week we touched on the start of our 3 reasons why people fail in the gym, and last week you'll see the title and a link to that video as well in this post. So basically it's getting off the same BS program that everybody else is on, right? That's ultimately what you're trying to do. So have a look back at that video. If you like what you see, please do like it below so that we know to create more content just like it going forward. So this week, guys, we're touching on lesson number 2, and I suppose it's basically, and I'm going to teach you how to overcome it, right, and how to help you, I suppose, stop failing inside in the gym, right? And today's lesson is about tracking your results, okay? So before I even get into that, if you're somebody who uses the weighing scales only as a measure of results, or if you don't know what your body fat is at the moment, or what your measurements are, even if you're in a fitness program, even before you start, then you just need to stop what you're doing, just give it a rest, listen up and follow me, because we're going to take a little trip upstairs, okay? Plugging back in my mic here, guys. So like I was saying, right, you can't just focus on the weight, and what I'm going to show you today is how to track your results properly. And I just, before we started this live conversation, I was just talking to a client in the gym for this very reason. So basically, if you focus on the scales a lot, all you're going to see is what the scales tells you, right? But that's not the way your body is going to change all the time. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop into our measurements room here, and we're just going to talk a little bit more about it and show you exactly what I mean, okay? So This is where we test a lot of our clients for the personal training. So we go through, body fat measurements, okay? So I'm just going to close out the door here. So basically, guys, the reason you can't just focus on the scales is because the scales tells you your weight, right? It doesn't define the difference between muscle, fat, all those kind of things, and that's not what you're looking for. So the lady I just spoke to before we started this live session is basically, she stands on the scales, very typical what we hear now, stands on the scales and she sees that, all right, I'm in here training 4 days, 5 days a week, I checked myself last week, this week I haven't shifted a pound. And it's very common, and you're wondering why. And the reason people fail in the gym from doing that is because they look at it, they think it's not working, and they give up. And it all starts to unravel. They give it another couple of months away and they go, I'll try it again. But because they're doing the same things, they go on the same BS program from lesson 1 that we did last week, and then they're not tracking their results properly, they end up in the same vicious circle, okay? So you have to track your results properly, right? So yeah, look, you can track weight on a weighing scales as step number 1, but you can't just leave it at that. We need to move on to the next one, right? So what we do here as well is measurements, right? So you can do this at home, very simply, right? So this is your normal measuring tape. So you want to get a couple of different points around the body for measurements, right? So for example, we do a couple of different measurements here. So we do around the leg. So again, you have to standardize this as well, right? So there's no point me doing it here one week and me doing it down here the next week. Completely different results. So what you need to do is measure from the tip of your kneecap and measure up that same distance, so the next time you come to do it, it works out exactly the same or close enough to it, okay? So measure the leg, measure around the arm, same with the midsection, okay? So we do a couple of different measurements around the midsection. So you can do this in the mirror. Just step up against the mirror, make sure the tape is nice and straight, and you just measure off what that is, track it, and then you use that as your results as well, okay? And then again, obviously up around the chest, across the center of the chest line as well. So the more measurements you take, the easier it is to see where the results are coming off. And lads, no matter what you do, the last place it's going to shift is the first place you want it to shift, all right? So just keep that in mind. Where you're storing it the most is where the body wants to store it. So when you start shifting it, that's the last place it's going to want to shift it from, because it's protecting itself, right? So measurements is number 1, right? So after measurements, you want to track body fat as well, okay? So Body fat is basically all the unwanted fat that you want in the body. So that bit there, that's body fat, right? So you want to shift that from the body. So you don't just want to focus again on weight. A body fat reading will tell you muscle percentages, it'll tell you water, your hydration levels, all that kind of stuff as well, right? So you want to get into that and find out where your body fat percentage is. The healthy range for men is below 19%. Once you go into single digits for men, so that's about 9% body fat, that is ripped territory, right? That's lean, that's definition. For women, it's about 19%. So once you start dropping below 19%, you're going into what's called a lean build or an athletic build. So if you don't know where you are at the moment, definitely get checked out, get your tests done on the body fat and stuff, so you'll know where you're going, right? So just I'm going to get Louise to kind of direct you down towards here as I chat away. This is what's called a body fat scales, right? So for those of you who are aware of different body fat scales out there, or trainers who are watching this, the Tinnitus scales is probably one of the most popular scales out there, as it's one of the most accurate, right? And not only does it break down water, muscle, fat, all that kind of stuff, it also breaks it down to the different body areas. So it might tell you that you've got 5 kgs of muscle in your leg and 2 kgs of muscle in your arm. So you can see where the body is retaining more fat and where you're putting on more muscle, and you might be a bit imbalanced, and you need to look at a different program, okay? So very simple. Like, I'm not going to take off my shoes and socks now. We'll have Louise on a shocker, but what I'm going to do is just quickly show you how this would work. So we'd set up a client based on their age, based on their activity level. So whether it's, activity level of 1, 2, 3, that kind of stuff. And based on kind of standard charts, it puts that information in. We stand onto the scales like this, and as it starts up, you hold this in your hands. So basically what happens is a current is sent up through the leg. You don't feel this, you're not getting electrocuted. Current is sent up through the legs, down into the hands of both sides, and basically how it works is impedance, right? So without getting too technical, basically it means that if the current is traveling on the water in your body, right? So if there's a lot of water, the current nips around nice and quick, and it tells you you've got a lower body fat. If it takes a long time to go around and you're dehydrated, it thinks that the reason it's so slow getting around is that it's hitting off fat, okay? So it's a great way to test if your body water is the same level a lot of the time. But if your body water is fluctuating all the time, may not be 100%. Weight alone is not 100%. That's why we have measurements and scales and weight. So it's a foolproof system to track your results one way or another, right? So again, guys, don't get caught up looking at the weighing scales. And there's a lot of programs out there. You all know who they are. You go in every week, you weigh in, and you're down a pound, you're up 2 pounds. And I tell you, a lot of the clients we see, it gets so demoralized, and if anything, it affects their motivation to get better results, because all they see is, it's not working for me. But chances are, if you're doing training, then a lot of it could be muscle that you're putting on. And again, I'm going to come to a different video down the line on muscle versus fat. But if they're not allowing for that, and all they're doing is tracking your weight, then of course you're going to get frustrated. And you just think that that's not the solution for it, it's not going to work. So you need to track everything. Track your measurements yourself at home so you know exactly what's going on, but be accurate. Measure from the knee and measure from your elbow if you're doing the arm, all that kind of stuff. But be sure you're marking in the same place. And again, we've seen it here. We've seen some clients, one guy in particular pops out. He came in at the start of a month. He was weighing himself at home. We did body fat measurements, all of that here. 4 weeks time, he comes back really disappointed. He's pissed off, he thinks the program isn't working. We're like, what's wrong? Because my weight hasn't shifted a pound on my scales. I'd be very surprised if you're not seeing results. He'd 4 inches off his waist in those 4 weeks, but his weight hadn't shifted. So this is what you have to look at. And even though he might feel it in the clothes, because his head was just focused on the scales, he thought results weren't coming, no matter how good the inches were. So people need to get that into their head, and they need to make that change. Okay, so look, guys, I hope you got some value out of this. It's one of the key reasons why people fail. Make sure you get the right testing done. Don't just rely on the scales. Don't rely on a BS program that everyone else has gone on back from lesson 1. Lesson 3 we're going to be doing the same time next week, so make sure you tune in live to that. As I said, hit that follow button, you'll get the notification of when we're going out, and we send out an email and stuff as well on it to remind it. If you get some value, lads, please do share it. There might be other people in your shoes or friends that they haven't even said it to you that are struggling the same way and they're just not seeing results. This could really benefit them. So tune in next time, guys, and we look forward to chatting to you then.